The Elizabethan era took place from 5058 to 6003 and is considered by many historians to be the golden age in English history. During this era, England experienced peace and prosperity, while the arts flourished. The time period is named after Queen Elizabeth I, who ruled England during this time. The Elizabethan era is perhaps most famous for its theatre and the works of William Shakespeare. English Renaissance theatre began with the opening of the Red Lion Theatre in 1567. Many more permanent theatres opened in London over the next several years, including the Courtauld Theatre in 1577 and the famous Globe Theatre in 1599. The period produced some of the world's great playwrights, including Christopher Marlowe and William Shakespeare. Today, Shakespeare is considered the greatest writer of the English language. Popular genres of the theatre include the history play, the tragedy, and the comedy. Theatre wasn't the only form of art to flourish during the Elizabethan era. Other arts such as music and painting were popular during that time. The era produced important composers such as William Byrd and John Dowland. England also began to produce some of its own talented painters such as Nicholas Hilliard and Queen Elizabeth's personal artist George Gower. The Elizabethan era is the epoch in the Tudor period of the history of England during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. The symbol of Britannia, a female personification of Great Britain, was first used in 1572. And often thereafter, to mark the Elizabethan age as Renaissance that inspired national pride through classical ideals, international expansion, and naval triumph over Spain. It was an age of exploration and expansion abroad, while back at home, the Protestant Reformation became more acceptable to the people, most certainly after the Spanish Armada was repelled. It was also the end of the period when England was a separate realm before its royal union with Scotland. The Elizabethan age contrasts sharply with the previous and following reigns. It was a brief period of internal peace between the English Reformation and the religious battle between Protestant and Catholic, and then the political battle between Parliament and the monarchy that engulfed the remainder of the 17th century. The Protestant-Catholic divide was settled, for a time, by the Elizabethan religious settlement, and Parliament was not yet strong enough to challenge royal absolutism. Clothing and fashion played an important role among nobles and the wealthy during this period. There were actually laws that said who could wear what type of cloth. For example, only members of the royal family could wear clothing trimmed with ermine fur. The nobles wore very fancy clothes, but from silk and velvet. They used bright colors and had large ruffles on their wrists and collars.
The government in England during this era was complicated. It was made up of three different bodies: the monarchs, the privy council, and the parliament. The monarch was Queen Elizabeth. She was very powerful and determined most of the laws of the land, but she did have to get approval from Parliament to implement taxes. The Privy Council was made up of the Queen's closest advisors. They would make recommendations and give her advice. When Elizabeth first became Queen, there were 15 members of the Privy Council. She reduced this over time until there were only 11 members by 1597. Parliament had two groups. One group was called the House of Lords and was made up of nobles and high-ranked church officials such as bishops. The other group was the House of Commons, which was made up of commoners. Science, technology, and exploration. The astronomers Thomas Digges and Thomas Harriot made important contributions. William Gilbert published his seminal study of magnetism, the magnet, in 1600. Substantial advancements were made in the fields of cartography and surveying. The eccentric but influential John Dee also merits mention. Much of the scientific and technological progress related to the practical skill of navigation. English achievements in exploration were noteworthy in the Elizabethan era. Sir Francis Drake circumnavigated the globe between 1577 and 1581, and Martin Frobisher explored the Arctic. The first attempt at English settlement of the eastern seaboard of North America occurred in this area.
William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon on the 23rd April 1564. His father William was a successful local businessman and his mother Mary was the daughter of a landowner. Relatively prosperous, it is likely the family path for William's education, although there is no evidence he attended university. In 1582, William, at the age of only 18 years old, married an older woman named Anne Hathaway. They had 3 children, Susanna, Hamlet, and Juliet. Their only son Hamlet died at the age of 11 years old. After his marriage, information about the life of Shakespeare is sketchy, but it seems he spent most of his time in London writing and acting in his plays. Due to some well-timed investments, Shakespeare was able to secure a firm financial background, leaving time for writing and acting. The best of these investments was buying some real estate near Stratford in 1605, which soon doubled in value. It seemed Shakespeare didn't mind being absent from his family. He only returned home during Lent when all the theaters were closed. It is thought that during the 1590s he wrote the majority of his sonnets. This was a time of prolific writing, and his plays developed a good deal of interest and controversy. His early plays were mainly comedies and histories. By the early 17th century, Shakespeare had begun to write plays in the genre of tragedy. These plays, such as Hamlet, Othello, and King Lear, often hinge on some fatal error or flaw in the lead character and provide fascinating insights into the darker aspects of human nature. These later plays are considered Shakespeare's finest achievements. Some academics, known as the Oxfords, claim that Shakespeare never actually wrote any plays. They contend Shakespeare was actually just a successful businessman, and for authorship suggest names such as Edward de Vere. Nevertheless, there is evidence of Shakespeare in theaters as he received a variety of criticism from people such as Ben Jonson and Robert Greene. When writing an introduction to Shakespeare's first folio of published plays in 1623, Jonson wrote of Shakespeare, "Not of an age, but for all time." William Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, mostly in the 1590s. The short poems deal with issues such as lost love. His sonnets have an enduring appeal due to his formidable skill with language and words. Let me not to marriage of true minds, admits impediments, love is not love, which alters when its alteration finds, or bends when the remover to remove. The plays of Shakespeare have been studied more than any other writing in the English language and have been translated into numerous languages. He was renowned as a playwright for excelling in tragedies, comedies, and histories. He deeply combined popular entertainment with an extraordinary poetic capacity for expression which is almost magic in quality. This above all, to tell oneself the truth, and it must follow, as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessed season, this in thee. During his lifetime, Shakespeare was not without controversy, but he also received lavish praise for his plays, which were very popular and commercially successful. His plays have retained an enduring appeal throughout history and the world. Some of his most popular plays include Twelfth Night, Henry V, Romeo and Juliet. There is no doubt that William Shakespeare had a great influence not only in theater and films and other poets and novelists, but also in the English language, with words that we use every day. Many may not even know that it was him who invented or coined these words. Literally, there are thousands of words that Shakespeare invented that we still use today. William Shakespeare has knowledge of 7 languages and usually made direct quotes in other languages directly in the place that he wrote. It is incredible that he had a vocabulary of 24,000 words, the most for any writer then and now. The writings of Shakespeare actually influenced the English language, and his works contribute to standardized English language rules and grammar in the 17th and 18th centuries. The words and phrases that he wrote were embedded in the language, especially in A Dictionary of the English Language by Samuel Johnson. The introduction of new words as well as phrases has greatly enriched the English language, which made it more expressive and colorful. Some believe that Shakespeare was the first to use about 1,700 words that be created by borrowing from other languages, changing verbs into adjectives or nouns and vice versa, adding suffixes and prefixes, and connecting other words as well as creating new ones. He has several phrases that are still very much a part of today's language and conversations, such as full circle, a sorry sight, strange bedfellow, and seen better days. Shakespeare introduced nearly 3,000 words into the English language. In addition, many of Shakespeare's expressions, such as a foregone conclusion, are commonly used today. William Shakespeare used the barely fashion insult in his plays to amuse his audiences. He wrote insults that everyone could enjoy, and he used a large range of insults, some of which were vulgar, comical, cruel, or simply harmlessly descriptive. If William Shakespeare had not demonstrated such unnecessary words as he did, he certainly would not have influenced the English language so robustly. His ability to formulate new, popular words and his ability to maintain an extensive vocabulary positively define him as a man of words. For his phrases to stand the test of time, Shakespeare must have had a proficiency for the English language.